If you don't know what's happening or what's been happening for a while over at the podcast and content creation space,
cheeseburgers.
George Janko, Logan Paul, and Mike, I have a book, Majlak, are not beefing, but are not as close as they were before. Mike Majlak recently went on George Janko's podcast where they talked about George Janko's leave when he left from Impulsive Podcast. Not only did he leave from the Impulsive Podcast, he didn't feel like he was at home at that podcast.
The last straw for me was when Logan came after me for my religion, the show hit rock bottom and we weren't getting paid. Do you know what my final straw was? Not only was I controlled and pushed around on Impulsive, but then Logan's directing my show. That's not okay.
And he was getting held back from sponsorship. He wanted to get a sponsorship deal with Celsius, but Logan was literally holding him back because, no, I have Prime. You can't do that. I have Prime. So he's literally holding him back from getting money, while at the same time not getting money from Logan Paul. So he's just in this limbo of not getting nothing from no one just because Logan said so. Logan Paul has a podcast called Impulsive. It's been running for a while now. From the start, there was 3 hosts, then one of the hosts left. George was there until 2022 or 2023, where George finally left after a few episodes of him not feeling properly respected.
Give an example of
one that really hurt me is you told me I need a therapist because I believe in Jesus. That one hurt me.
No, I didn't. I said you need a therapist because Jesus isn't quite doing it for you, which is true.
No, you didn't. I don't want to stand down. No, you didn't.
Which you can really see in the last few episodes he was there. He didn't feel respected. Even on the Crypto Zoo episode, one of the last episodes he was in, he was also awkward. Even though Logan Paul was apologizing for making fun of his religion and all that, it was still awkward. And it didn't feel like an actual friendship. It all looked forced. All of it is forced. Back when George Janko was in it, I used to watch that shit. And that's also just to support another like Assyrian creator. And not only am I Danish, I'm from a group of people called Assyrians. The only 2 I can really think of is George Janko and FaZe Rug. Those 2 are the only ones that I can think about. And I'm happy that there is at least like one popular Assyrian content creator. George Janko was always one of my favorite like members. I know a lot of people are like, oh, he doesn't talk a lot. Ugh. But I do like George. Anytime George was in an episode, it was a good episode, dude. I'm just saying, anytime George butted in, it was pretty good. Except those few monologues he had where he kind of fucked it up and like the speed of the episode just slows down. That was kind of, yeah, where this all like really came into light that George did not like being in these episodes anymore, and it started really like getting fired up, was around the Bobby Lee episode. I can show exactly what episode number it is. I can't remember it off the top of my head. Bobby Lee was on the Logan Paul podcast, Impulsive. Bobby Lee was sitting next to George. Throughout this episode, Bobby Lee had been touching, really being weird with Bobby Lee, and that's just Bobby Lee's humor.
In Chicago?
Your mom.
Bobby Lee has been on other shows where they interview him, where he has been equally weird, maybe even more weird. But asking a guy to smell your dick, I'm just saying, I don't care who it is, that's harassment, dude. And he forced George Janko to sniff his dick. Now, apparently the producers have cut a lot from that episode, so Bobby Lee literally didn't get like arrested or other stuff happened with Bobby Lee because he did some bad shit. And in George Janko's words, Bobby Lee had done some shit that made him walking off look completely normal, because they cut so much bad shit that Bobby Lee did that it just looked stupid that George Janko walked off. Now, throughout this episode with George Janko in, I don't know how to, I'm just gonna call him Mike. With Mike and George Janko, I'm also just gonna call him George. Well, Mike and George. Mike was really like in the start just talking, they were just talking about like the past and all that, and then at some point they started talking about the episode. Mike is really trying to be on both sides. He's really trying to stay on both sides. He's trying to be on Logan's side, but also George's side. Now, do I respect that? Not really. Of course, you gotta see the side of both arguments, but right now, from what I'm seeing, you gotta pick a side. You can't just like stay on the line and just walk it. Like, you can't do that. If we're talking about friendships, dude, you're being a really bad friend towards George. Throughout the episode, he talks with George and he tries to reason with George. He's like, no, dude, I didn't do that. Who was the first guy to reach out to you, man? I didn't do that. Like, he always tries to say, oh, I did not, I'm not involved. When in reality, he's he's as involved as Logan. Well, no, not maybe as much as Logan, because Logan is literally like, he's the head of the podcast and he has all the money and he controls everything, but he's still kind of like encouraging it. Oh yeah, Logan, make another fucking episode without George. Alright, let's ignore that George left. Let's make jokes about George leave. They actually made a episode like a few days after George left and started up his podcast, the George Janko Show. They kind of sneaked this George, and I watched that, and I just kind of thought it was a dickhead move. I gotta be fully honest.
We love you guys. We love you guys. Seriously, without you, this would be nothing. I love this outlet. I love this outlet, and it exists because people watch. And without people watching, I just have a show like.
Of course, it's funny to like, yeah, shit talk people and all that, but like doing it in front of millions of people, it's kind of fucked up, dude, and I don't respect it at all. Logan Paul used to be a creator that I used to love watching. I used to love his content and all that stuff, and that's also just because it's dopamine central. As a like, I don't know when he started, but I was really young. Like, it was 4 years ago, like maybe 4 years ago. I used to watch this shit like dopamine. It literally hit my head like crack cocaine. For any kid around my age, that shit attracted you so much. I don't really like talking about the Logan Paul group. The Logan Paul group is a whole can of beans that I don't really like talking about. Jake Paul, I talked about him recently, right? Even that was bad. I really don't like talking about the Paul brothers. They are just not something that I like touching on. And that's not because I'm a fan of them. I fucking love their content. I'm gonna stack donuts on it. That's just me not finding it enjoyable to talk about it. But this situation is something that I'm actually interested in. Since George Janko is a part of my people, like he's one of my people. This is a part of my culture, like Assyrians, Chaldeans, like, so I can say that, oh, I have something that can relate to this, but I'm still not a part of it. I really don't think that the situation can get any better, except of course, like, yeah, Logan Paul did a TikTok recently where he just sped through a few arguments, tried to change the outlook and make it look like that George was like just lying for no reason, just for like the last few seconds, like apologize to George because, you know, George, that one guy who was on my podcast at one time, we gotta apologize to him, make our public image look better. I like, he would not be apologizing at all. I'm 100% sure. I said this like with the P. Diddy video. If this shit hadn't come to light, if George Janko never had come out about this shit, Logan Paul would have never felt bad about it. And that's because Logan Paul, I know everybody says it's 24/7. I'm just saying, bro, that guy is like kinda a psychopath. And that's just me being honest. He's a psychopath. From what I've seen, the Paul brothers are just psychopaths. They don't care about other people's feelings. They only care about people's feelings when it's like important to them. For example, the crypto zoo situation. Logan Paul did not give a fuck. And none of the people who were involved did not give a fuck that those people got scammed for like thousands of dollars. It was like, oh guys, I'm so happy CoffeeZilla like exposed me, bro. Yeah, so I'm gonna give y'all money back. Oh wait, just kidding, I'm not. Thank fuck Logan. I just didn't want my money back from a fake crypto zoo coin. That's really what I wanted this year. Just not to get my fucking money. Thank you, Logan. I appreciate it so much. But yeah, I've been blabbering on too long. See ya.